Today's webinar is on the ins and outs of purchase orders. And we're going to go into the FrameReady program and take a look. The purchase orders are over in the center of the screen, and that is the green background on your screen. On the right-hand side, it also can be used for ordering the framing materials that are in the price codes file, and the purchase orders can also be used for the retail products that are in the products file. There is another relationship from the purchase orders, and that is having your suppliers set up in the contacts file. So those are the three that we're going to be looking at. In addition to that, for the ins and the outs, any retail products that you put onto an invoice will be deducted from inventory, and anything that you have on the work order screen will also be deducted from inventory for the framing materials section, and the retail products as well. So all of these files work together to make things function better for you to keep track of your inventory. There are a couple of things that you can do if you want to turn things on or off. In this case, what I have done, and you don't have to do this, is that in the work order options, I have turned on the update of the materials inventory so that it will automatically start tracking. Every time I put something onto a work order, it will deduct it from the inventory. You don't have to do that to use the purchase orders. It does help you go full circle with it, and you will notice a difference on the screens, so that when I go to the work order screen while I'm in the inventory mode and I click on to any work order, you're going to see that I cannot make any changes to the bottom portion of the screen. And some people are going to say, hey, well, that's great, because maybe you shouldn't. You don't want to accidentally make changes. Over on the right-hand side, there's a purple Modify Work Order button. And when I click on the purple Modify Work Order button, that's going to show me that I can add in a frame or add in a mat. And when I'm finished, I need to make a decision on whether it's work order done, go ahead and update the inventory, or keep this as an estimate and do not take the items out of inventory. In which case, then I need to click the estimate button first, and then I can keep it as an estimate. Otherwise, when I click the work order done, whatever the materials are for this item, and maybe I'll just make sure that I'll put some items in there. So I'm going to put in a mat on this one, and I'll throw a frame in here as well, and then I'll throw in a few mat margins just to give me some numbers to play with. Let's throw that in there. Okay, and then when you hold your mouse over top of the description, it'll tell you the footage that you have on hand, quantity on hand is 42, and the required footage is 8.5 feet. So when I click on work order done, that particular molding is going to be deducted 8.5 feet. So that's taking inventory out. Now, as I mentioned before, you don't have to have that turned on. Under the options tab, more options, right here in the middle. You don't have to have that turned on if you don't want the FrameReady to take the inventory out for you. You can also handle your inventory manually if you go to the price codes file and we take a look at any molding record. And let me just go find my marked records here. In here, you can do the inventory in a manual way, and what you would do is you would enter in the amounts individually to say, I have a 6 foot length, a 4 foot length, a 2 foot length, and then it would total up what the amount is. But my recommendation is that if you're going to use, you either use one or you use the other one. You don't use both of them. And in this case, what it's telling me is that I have a quantity of 33.5 feet left in stock. I've sold this quantity. If it gets below 50 feet, then I want it to order another 100 feet. And you can set those numbers up to be whatever you want. If it gets below 40 feet, I want to order another 50 feet. So you can set that up as you need. Let's go back to the main menu. That's one of our setups. There's also, under the purchase order tab, the options section. And if we click on options, pause on preview, show print dialog box, you're familiar with that. The edit email messages, if you wanted to send the purchase order by email, you can change that. But what I'm interested most in is this more options, so that if we decided that we don't want the supplier to see the customer name on the purchase order or the work order number, because maybe they get confused between their product number and the work order number that you have, then you can check those boxes and they will not appear. I'm going to leave them unchecked right now so that you can see what they look like when we create the purchase order. And that way you'll know that as well. The other thing is that on the purchase orders, you'll notice if we go to any one of these, that you shouldn't be seeing your taxes appearing on there. So the tax area should be blank. If you have taxes appearing on there, what you need to do is in the main menu, in the top right-hand corner for setup data, you want to go to fiscal. And in here, this is where you've got your exemption certificate number. And if you put your number in there, then it will not have the taxes appear on your purchase orders. Now, if you don't know what your number is, you can type in the word pending or a temporary number, but then when you do get your number, definitely type it in. You'll also notice up here is your business number as well. So that number in the bottom portion by the tax is what exempts you on the purchase orders so that your tax is not added onto it. So I think that's the basics that I wanted to show you. There's also several different ways to create a purchase order. From the purchase order screen, you can click on the new purchase order button. That's going to give you a blank purchase order, and then you can fill it in manually. Now, if you do create a blank purchase order and you want to fill it in, you can't enter in the work order number and hope that it will put the items on here. You do have to type the item in yourself with the suffix on it, and then it will put the item in and then give you the length you will need to identify. Because this one already had a pre-order amount in there, it's automatically put the 50 feet in. The other thing that you can do, delete that one item, is that, and I'm going to actually delete this one as well. And if you do want to delete a purchase order, you'll need to go back to list view. The one that's showing white is the one that's about to be deleted. And I'm going to click on delete record. And that's the one that's being deleted right now. If you want to create them automatically, up in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see the auto inventory button here for the product file and the auto create frame order button as well. These two buttons are also found on the main menu. If we go back to the main menu, a lot of people use this one here, the create frame order. That's my favorite as well. Or you can use for the products down here, create product order. But let's say you're in the product file or the purchase order file and you're thinking that you want to order that product. What you can do is go directly to that product file, and in the product file, there's a button on the left-hand side that's green and it says post a purchase order. And this one already says that a reorder quantity is 5, so it's going to automatically this one's going to be automatically ordered anyway. But if I click on post a purchase order, what it will do is it will ask me, do you want to post this onto a new purchase order, create a new one, or do you want the last one that was still open? So you're given that choice, and that comes up on both the product file and in the price codes file as well. So if you were to go down here to post a purchase order and you wanted to post this particular item there, it's going to ask you, oh, this one's already on order. So it's being ordered already. So you can see the little check mark there. So if I was to go to another item, let me go find a different one. There we go. So we have a different map board now. And if I do want to post it to a purchase order, when I click on post a purchase order, it's going to ask me if I want to put it on to the last one that was used or a new one. So either one you can choose. If you do decide the last one, it will find the last one that is still open. And by open, what I mean by that is that on the purchase order screen, it says not placed. Once it's been marked as placed or received, it's closed and you can't add other items to it unless you manually go in and type them. But I don't know why you would want to do that. So those are the two ways to do it. Now we're going to take a look at the creating the frame order, and I've got a few tips for you just before we do that. And when we get back here, what I want to do is take a look at creating the frame order. We're going to click on the create frame order right here, and it's going to tell me how many work orders there are that need to be ordered. So I can see that there are 14 of them right now, but I'm curious and I want to know which ones those are. So I'm going to click cancel, and I would recommend this if you haven't used this before, that you want to do this, because when we go and click on find work order, if you find out that there are thousands of work orders that are going to be generated or for the frame order, you might not want to do that. You might need to do some cleanup. So click on find work order, and then in the center of the screen, there's a button that says select for frame order. And when you click that button, now it's going to find all of the work orders that are going to be ordered when I click on the post to purchase or the create frame order button. And the rule of thumb here is that, first of all, they must be incomplete. If it is either hold or complete, or if it's an estimate, the product will not be ordered. The work order will not go onto the frame order list. So it has to be those. So if you have a whole pile of items in here that are marked as incomplete, then they are going to all be ordered. Unless, let's go up to the top one here. If I click on this windswept one and I take a look at the items on here and I look at that and I say, you know what, it's a small piece, I've got a scrap piece of that. I don't need to order any of the items that are on here. I want to cancel the order just for this one work order. And the way to do that is over on the left-hand side of the screen, and I can click on the button that says cancel frame order. When I do that, it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to change this so that you're not going to order this? And I'm going to say yes. Okay, you'll see the button has changed. It no longer says cancel frame order. It now says select for frame order. So the button always tells you what it will do. For example, if I click this, it's going to duplicate the work order. But if I click this one, it's going to select the items on here for the frame order and it will order them. So if you see that you have a large number of items on there that are incomplete, but you don't need to order them, you can go through and click on that button to cancel the frame order. You can always reverse it. So if you made a mistake, you can click on select for frame order. Are you sure you want to change this? And I'll say yes. And now it's back to being ordered. The button shows the option, which is to cancel it. So if I click on the button, it will cancel it. So that's the toggling back and forth and cleaning up your list. So once you see on your list how many items are to be ordered, in some cases you may need to go through and mark items off as being complete, okay, and ready for pickup, and then that way they are not going to be showing on your list for the frame items that need to be ordered. So let's go ahead and just before we create our first purchase order and go through the process and check the screen out, Carl, there is a poll that we can run, the first one, and we'll give everybody a chance to participate there and share some information.
Okay, quick poll. What type of items do you order? Retail products, framing materials, or both retail products and framing materials?
Excellent. And what are some of the questions that we have, Carl?
The tax is not appearing at the bottom of the purchase order. Is that so we're not double charged tax because the vendor invoice will reflect the taxes?
Correct. When you create your purchase order, even if it has the taxes on it or you have prices on it for special items, the supplier is not going to go by what you sent them. They're going to create their own invoice for you. But some people don't want to see the taxes on there so that they can get an accurate number on their purchase orders. So if you don't want to see the taxes, go ahead and put your tax exemption number in. If it doesn't bother you and your suppliers aren't charging you tax anyway because you're in the manufacturing, then don't worry about it. It's not mandatory. You don't have to do it. The other thing that people will mention, I'll just mention that now as well, is that a lot of times people like to go back and change the amount that's in the purchase order to be the actual amount that they paid for the item. And you don't have to worry about that either. If you were to put the incorrect amount in there saying that the molding is $8, but the supplier actually only charges you $7.50 because you get a discount, don't worry, they're going to charge you the amount. And if you put a lower number in there, yeah, they're still going to charge you the higher amount. So they will create their own. So you don't have to worry about the tax number being in there.
Okay, and there was one additional question about, can you show us again how to get the list of work orders that were selected for frame order?
Yes, absolutely. I will do
we'll
that.
have to close the, shall we close the, there we are.
Yeah. Ah, okay. All right, excellent. So very few people just using it for retail only. Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Okay, good information. All right, let's go back here. Very easy to do. So if we're on the main menu or even in the work order file, you're going to click on Find Work Order or the Find button in the work order screen. And in the center of the screen here, there's the Select for Frame Order. Remember that button I was telling you about, Select for Frame Order? That's what you want to check, and then click Perform Find, and it's going to show you all the work orders that are going to be ordered. Also, if you're in the work order screen and you want to do the same thing, use the Find button. And I'm telling people, don't use this little magnifying glass. It's very limiting. Use the Find button so you can find exactly what you want. And then click Perform Find. Okay. Excellent. We're going to go to the main menu now, and on the purchase orders, we're going to go down to create frame order. There are a lot of options for you here, and I've selected some of them. On the left-hand side, I've checked the box for mounting and glazing, not necessarily because I want to see them on a purchase order, but if I have entered in a mat board, because I'm doing a float mount and the art is floating on top of the mat board, and I've entered the mat board into the mounting field, I want to have that show up on my purchase order. In order to do that, I need to click on the mounting button here. If I have fabric that I've entered into the glazing field because I'm putting a fabric wrap over top of the liner, and I can type the fabric number into the glazing field and say that I need to fit it into whichever frame I'm using. That fabric's in the glazing, so I want that to show up on my purchase orders. So that's why I've selected those two items there. Over on the right-hand side, we do want to create the purchase orders. The frame order, the original frame order was the first document that we had created, and then we had the digital one, which is the purchase order. So definitely check the box and have this set up to do that. We also have the print frame labels. If you want to see the labels, you can. You don't necessarily have to use that, but you may like it. If you are using the frame order, I've chosen print without page breaks, so it's just one continuous page, and that's a great double check for you. Again, you have the options here to pause on preview. If you don't like, this is new, if you don't want to print out the frame order, mat, mold, and cut lists, you can set it to no, and that's going to speed things up for you. So I'm going to go back here and say, here's the presets that we want. The other thing to know is that if you enter in a work order date, so I want all the work orders up to a certain date, or all the work orders that were just created today, you can type in that date. And once you've typed in the date, then it will find only the work orders that were created on that day. And of course, once it runs it, it's going to toggle that button to say, we don't need to order these items anymore. Another option is to say, I want to do a date range, or I want to base it on the due date. I'm working out from my due date instead, and I want to find everything that is needing to be ordered, that's scheduled to be due after today's date. So by entering the date and 3 periods, or by doing a date range, and it shows you up at the top how you can enter those date ranges in, just use that format and it will find those items. Otherwise, leave it blank. And if you leave it blank, it remembers that I clicked the button yesterday at 2:05, and it's going to find every single work order that was created after that time that's eligible, that is incomplete. So it's going to omit all the others, and then it's going to find just those frames for me. Now, if I go ahead and I proceed, and then later on come back and think, oh gosh, I forgot to turn the printer on and I wanted to print everything out, how do I create this order again? Well, down in the bottom left-hand corner, there's the Restore Last Order button. And if you click on it, you'll get a choice to either show you the list of all the work orders that were created the last time, or it just goes back to the main menu and you can come back right into the screen and click the Proceed button and carry on. Now, if I have not done my preset on the price codes file, then it's not going to have all the items show up. So I'm going to go back and show you the preset, and that is in the price codes file. There is a button on the left-hand side of the screen in the form view, and it's on every single form view, whether it's molding, mat, or fabric, mat design. When you click on Order From, this is the little bit of setup that you have to do. You're going to need to go to the supplier and select who is the person that manufactures the item, or the distributor that you have, and select their name on the left-hand side. And then over on the right-hand side, you're going to select who is it that you're going to order that item from. So if it is Bainbridge Mat Board and you want to select to order it from a different company, then you can simply select their name. But the company you may want may not be in this list. And if you don't see them in there, that's because they aren't in your contacts file. This is the link from the supplier to the contacts. That's what this screen is doing. And if we click on New Vendor, it's going to take us right to the contacts file. It's showing me, last time I was searching for something, I entered in a W. So that's why it's entered in the W. But now I can type in there Bainbridge order, because I only want to do, maybe I want all my Bainbridge mats to go onto one order, and then when I'm finished, then I'll decide which order they should be added to. Should they go on to Omega, or Complete, or Roma, or somebody else? So I can group them onto one order to start with. but I need to put in the company name. There must be something in the account number, otherwise they will not show up on that list. If you don't have an account number with them, type in the word none or put pending in if you don't know what your account number is right now. But uncheck the box for general and go down and check the box for framing supplier. And I've got mine listed supplier art, supplier framing, and you can have supplier anything else you wanted. If supplier framing is not in your list, click on new keyword and add them in to the list. So once I click done, now Bainbridge order is going to appear on my list, and there it is. So I can say everything that's a Bainbridge mat should be going on to just the Bainbridge order, and that's going to go on to one order all by itself. Or I can select somebody else and say it's going to go on to another company. But when I click apply, it's just finished doing that for 946 records in my list. You can see it's written in Bainbridge order here, and at the list view, you'll see it appear on the right-hand side of the screen. So the supplier or the product's made by Bainbridge over here, and I'm actually ordering it from what I've created called Bainbridge order. And it's that easy to just go back in and switch them and say, and if that's not the company that you want, you can go back in and change it to another company. We'll just change it, and you'll see that it's changed it for all 900 records that fast. So let's go back. Now that we know that everything is set up and you've done that for every supplier that you have in your price codes file, in that list, you're going to see something called in-house. Don't worry about it. That it means that it doesn't need to be ordered. That's why in-house is in there. So it will never be ordered. APG tape might be in-house, bump-ons, you know, small things that you don't really need to order individually with each order. So back here on the main menu, we're going to go to create frame order. I'm going to leave this blank because I know that I had done this just yesterday and there won't be too many, and we've already done that check, and it is showing me that there are 13 work orders on the list. You'll remember that I took one and marked it as I didn't need to. So once it's compiled, and this saves you so much time rather than you sitting with every single piece of paper on those work orders and going through and finding out what needs to be ordered and how many you need of each one, it's going to compile the list for you. And as I said, the first 3 documents, if you don't need them, you can bypass them. This is the first one. This is the molding cut list. And you'll see that this is a list of every molding that needs to be cut, if I'm ordering it by chop, if I'm ordering it by length. The dimensions are here, the footage that's required, and if I have it in inventory already, the quantity on hand is visible and where the inventory is located is also shown. Those people, if you put in stock, it's information, okay, but sometimes it's better to have a number saying what's the bin number or where is it located. If you have somebody and all they do is cut the molding, this is a great page for them to have. If you want to bypass this and continue on, we'll click continue. And we'll say cancel to the print job for now. And we'll go to the mat board cut list. On here, we have the same thing. It shows me the customer name, the work order number that it's for, the items that I'm cutting. And over here on the right-hand side are the dimensions. And if I have it in hand already. And what I like about this is that it's a great pull sheet. So that if there's something very small on there, maybe I had something on there that was only an 8x10 mat. In that case, I want to go and take this to the back room, find out if I have that scrap, and then I don't have to order it. So you're using the supplies that you already have. Once you found it and you have it in stock already and you know you don't need it, then cross that number off, cross them off and say, I have those 2 in the back room. I have a piece small enough to do it. So I don't need to order that in. And then when you're ordering supplies, you've got that list in front of you saying, don't order it. And I'll show you how to cancel that. We're going to continue on to the next page. And this is the frame labels. You can bypass this page if you want. Otherwise, it's a great way to say that this is for order number C0108. This is the customer name, the molding numbers on there, the size of the frame, so that if you do have a popular frame, it comes in different sizes, people are always ordering it. This sticker that's added onto the back of the frame is going to make it easier for the person who has to pull the right frame to assemble it all together. These are Avery labels. They are 3 across, 10 down. They're the regular address labels. So you can use those. Let's move on to the next page that we have available to you. And this is the frame order. And this is where it used to stop. This was the last document that you'd get, but it continues on after this now. And that's fantastic. This is giving you the list of every Bainbridge mat that needs to be ordered, the sizes that you need, who the customer is, the work order number. And you'll see in the top left corner, there's pages here. And what I'd like to do about this one is to double check. And when you first set up your purchase orders, print this page out. And then when you get to the purchase order screen, you can double check to make sure that every company that you see on here has been added onto the purchase order. Because if we get to the purchase order and there isn't one for Roma, then we know we forgot to set Roma up. Also, if I'm looking at this and saying, I only have one frame for Roma, maybe I don't want to put my order in for Roma right now. Maybe I'll wait till later on, and maybe I'll get a few more frames in. Or I might look at the mat board and say, well, I could order the mats from Roma this time. I'll put the Bainbridge mats onto the Roma order. Will that give me enough? And you can try that as well. So this gives you a lot of information that you could be using. I'm going to click continue and say cancel the print job. Because now we come to the screen that the artwork screen. So if there was any art that needs to be ordered, it goes on here as well. And that's also using the special order button on the work order screen, where you can use that to order in art specifically for a customer, and it will put it onto a purchase order for you. So here we are on the screen that lists each company that I have an order for. If I decide that I don't want to go ahead with the order for Roma, I can omit it. And then the next time that it comes up, it's going to have the previous item plus any new items that are needed for Roma. I'm going to leave it because I will combine it with the crescent order so we can see how to do that. So I'm going to click the continue button. And now it's going to create a purchase order for each one of those companies that was on the list. And when I go up to the very first one, let's take a look at Larson Jewel order. And it has a listing of everything that I need to order on there. You'll notice that so we've added, oh yeah, I switched them over to the Bainbridge. So here we have the Bainbridge mats that are on the Larson Jewel order. You can see that it says 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, meaning that it needs half a sheet of mat board. Warning to you, do not send this to the company saying with those 5s all on there, because they may not see the decimal and they're going to send you 5 of each of them. So you want to manage this, and you can take a look at this number and say you could add it up yourself, but you don't need to. There's a button at the top of the screen that's called Consolidate Order. But before I consolidate the order, I do want to take a look, and if they had that pull sheet and somebody came back and said, yes, we already have this one, and there's a small quantity in stock, we didn't, count it at all. And if you're not tracking your inventory, you may not know that it's there. But if you've used that pull sheet to see what's there, you can delete this item by using the teal colored button on the right hand side to delete that one item off of the list. And now it's gone. Over on the right-hand side, we can also see that we have 12 feet of inventory in stock. We need 7. If you're feeling comfortable that the 12 is good, fine, you can go ahead and order it. Take a look at the small sizes over here. I would feel comfortable. You can say, yes, I don't need to order that item. You can delete that item as well. But if this number was perhaps 9 and you had in stock 11, if it gets too close, then you might want to say, you know what, let's not delete it. Let's leave it on there and let's go check first to make sure the lengths are what we need. Because with the automatic inventory and allowing the portions to go back in, if I've ordered 10 feet and I only needed 7, it's going to put 3 feet back in. If I order another 10 feet and I only need 2, it's going to 8. It's going to put 2 feet back in. And eventually that 2 and 3 and 2 and 2 and 1 is going to accumulate to a larger number. So as with the manual inventory, you need to go back and track it and keep track of it. Do a physical count on it. You need to do that same thing with the automatic inventory. Maybe 4 times a year, twice a year, whatever you think, depending on how fast your inventory moves and how much it accumulates. You want to do that physical inventory and just put the number in for the whole sticks that you have, rather than all the little bits and pieces. So I'm going to leave that one on there for a moment, and I'm going to consolidate this order. What it's going to do is it's going to find any of the items that are the same, and it's going to total them up for me so that I don't need to total them. Clicking And there it is, it's done. So now it's totaled it up and it says I need 2 whole mats, okay? One of this, and it's putting the mat size in based on the dimensions in the price codes file for that mat. You'll see for the length molding that I needed, it's changed it to say foot. If it's metric, it'll say meters. But if something is join or chop, it will leave that unit of measure on there, and then it will give the dimensions instead. And we need 1 of them, or maybe if I needed 2 or 3 or 4, and it would put that amount in there. If you are using this to order glass, I want to caution you that if you are ordering glass on here and you need 6 sheets of glass, that's the time when you want to go in here and you're going to change this to say a quantity of 1, and in this drop down list you're going to say 1 box, because if you order 6 sheets, they're going to charge you the per sheet price, quite possibly. If you order 1 box, then you get a box. And if you wanted to put it back into inventory, that's when you need to remember to go back to each, and then you're going to put the quantity back to 6 when that inventory comes in. So this order has not been placed. If I want to place this order, the easiest way to do that is to go up to the top of the screen, and then I'm going to email it to them. And on the menu bar at the top is the word email. And I can click on that and see either send it as an attachment, and this is what the attachment will look like. It's if you print it out, it'll have your logo or your business name in the top left corner, and then the company to whom you're sending will be listed below it. On the left-hand side, this is where I was telling you the work order number appears and the customer name appears. So if you don't want those to show up, you're going to go back to the main menu, click on the options tab for the purchase orders, and hide customer name, hide work order number. Over here on the right is the date that it's due, so you know that this is due on that date. You promised the customer that it would be due on that date. So I'm using some old work orders here, that's why we have some old numbers in there for the due date. Then over on the right-hand side, we have our quantity, we have our footage that's going to be ordered, and then you can either save this as a PDF if you wanted to send it that way. Otherwise, use the email button, on the top left corner of the screen, click on the word email on the menu bar, and then you can email it to them. Going back to our list view, when we take a look at the list view, we have the others in there. Once I place this, it's your job to click the place button, because the software doesn't know, did you call the order in? Did you fax it in? Did you email it? So you need to mark the place button to let it know that it's gone in there. But then going back here, if I decide that I've got my Roma order and there isn't very much on it, but I also have my Crescent order and I want to move that over to the Roma order, I can merge 2 purchase orders together. Just take a look at the numbers on the left-hand side, and then at the top of the screen, you're going to click on the button that says merge 2 POs together, and it's going to ask you for the first number. So I want to keep the one for Roma because that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to take everything from purchase order number 671, and I'm going to move it over to 670, and it's going to move all of those documents, and the Crescent mat board order is now empty because all of those mats have now been added onto the Roma order. So all of the mats are now on here. The sizes are on here. Once again, if there was a small size that I had in stock and I don't need it, then I'm going to remove it. Otherwise, I'm going to consolidate the order. And once I consolidate the order, it's a much shorter list. And again, if I have it in stock and I don't need it and I know it's going to work, delete the item. There's also a way for you to move individual items. So if I was to go back to one of the other purchase orders and I say that I wanted to move one of the mats for some reason back to the Crescent order, what I can do is go back to the Roma order, and the Crescent number is 671. What I can do is go to the order here and say, take this item using the move button on the right-hand side, the golden move button, and I'm going to say, put it onto 671, which was the Crescent order, click OK. And now when I go back, it's now added back onto the Crescent cardboard order. So that's a way that you can move the orders back and forth. Now, consolidating the order doesn't lose any data. I know in some cases, I'm going to go back up here to list view, and I want to see the ones that we created today. So I'm going to click on find, click on the calendar, all the orders that we just created today. And there's the one from Larson Jewell, because we consolidated a number of mats into one order. And this was from a lot of different work orders. But if you go over to the left-hand side of the screen and click on the work order number field, all of the work order numbers are still there. visible. And if you click the Go button on the left-hand side, it's going to go to all 3 of those work orders. So you can see all 3 of them. You can check to see, is that mat on there? Yes, it is. Check any other information you want, and then go directly back to the purchase order screen to say, yep, I do want to order that, or no, let's take that off or reduce the number that's on there. So on the purchase order screen, you can have a lot of flexibility to move back and forth between the work orders and the purchase orders. We are not able to do that with the product orders, but we can do that with the purchase orders. Let's go back up to the top of the screen. Another thing that happens is that sometimes an item might be back ordered. So if we do go ahead and we say that we've placed this, and we're going to say that it's coming back into inventory now, but one of the items was back ordered. So if I click on the button on the left-hand side, what will happen is that this item will now be added automatically onto the next purchase order for Larson Jewell. Now, some companies like that and they want the item to go back on the order. Other companies say no, they don't want that to happen. So in that case, people are always very creative when using FrameReady. What they've done is they have a back order. In the terms up here, we've added other things that you could be using. So you have one purchase order that's storing all of those back ordered items. And what I want to do is take this one item here and I want to move it to my back order purchase order, and after a little while, you get to know which ones they are. So I'm going to say, find that back ordered one. And over here under the terms, it's the back order one. And I think I only have one of them in there. Oh, so it's a Roma one. So then I would move that item over to this purchase order. And it's going to sit on this purchase order, knowing that I'm waiting for these items to come in. They are back ordered. And then when they do come in, I can either mark them as received and everything is done. But if still one of them is back ordered, then I may want to create another new purchase order and move that one item to that other purchase order. I'll say that all of these have come in, and I'll just put it back either to net or to nothing. Or I'll go back and say, no, this was a back ordered item. So you can use that in in different ways. It's just another way of tracking your back ordered items or any of the other things, replacements or reorders, refunds, returns, all of those things, to say which suppliers are able to get me my back ordered items, which aren't, so you can track that yourself. Carl, I think we've got another poll there, and I'm sure that we might have some other questions as well.
All right, we will launch the poll. From how many vendors do you purchase? Please select all that apply. And there is your numbers.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Excellent. So one of the things that I know from working with people and taking some of the classes is that when we start out and people are new framers, they start out with maybe 1 to 4 vendors, and then they start accumulating more and more. And then it gets to the point where they've got so many vendors. It's a challenge to look after them. And one of the educators that I remember listening to had said that if you can get them to be around the 10 mark, 10, 15, 10, 12, he said that he thought that was a really good number. But when you get into anything over 30, and we do have people using FrameReady that are using over 30 vendors, you get a better buying power if you can reduce the number of vendors that you're working with, choose the ones that are the best, and go with that. Thanks, Carl. There you go. I'm going to go back here to there it is, McPherson order. So if you are working with art supplies or anything like that, one of the new features on here is a line item search. So that if you are looking for a product number and you've got this long list and you're thinking, I need to find this one particular item and I can't find it in the list, it came in, and you just type the number in, hit the enter key, and now it's going to find that item. And you can say, yes, this item came in, I want to accept that, or they changed the quantity on me, they only shipped me 5, or they ship me 15. You can change that as well, or let's just say it was 10 because that's what it was, and then accept the order. You're going to have to put your initials in. The initials appear on the work order screen under the materials, the go to materials button. So if you're wondering where that goes for the work orders. But now that I've got that in there, I'm going to clear out the search line and it's going to show me all the items. The other option is that I may want to click on the underlined word for item to sort them out numerically, or I may want to click on the description to sort them out by description. So that's another option. But if you've got them sorted and you're thinking, I want them to go back to the way they were, just click on the sort heading again, and it puts them back to the way that they were originally. So we want to go back to. In the price codes file, if you wanted to set something up to be ordered automatically, and I'm going to go find my items here, which I did set up automatically. I'm going to show you the price codes file first and then the product file, because there is some difference between the two of them. So over here on the right hand side, the quantity sold, the quantity that I have in stock is bright yellow. A quantity field is always bright yellow on all of the screens. Quantity sold threshold is the amount. Once it gets below the threshold, the quantity is below the threshold, it will automatically reorder this amount. When it has been ordered, it will put the check mark into the on order button. And then if you wanted to, you could take that number, go find that number on the purchase order, and you would find the exact purchase order that it's currently on. When you click the accept button, and maybe I should do that just to show you, because over here we have the received, first sold, last sold. It's tracking all of that information. But when I go back to the purchase order and I say find that particular item, because I know it's on a purchase order somewhere, and be sure you click in the item number box, not the work order number box. Okay. And if I have received this item and I'm going to say everything from here has returned into inventory, has come in, I'm going to click the accept all button and put my initials in. There we go. And those items are back into inventory now. They've been added. So the inventory has been updated by the amount that I ordered. And then you can see down here, this is the received date. So it's always going to be changing the received date and the previous sold and the last sold date as well. But if we're working on the products file and we go to the products screen, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a difference here, because we have not only the quantity but the threshold. So if it goes below the number 10, then it's going to be reordered. And this is the reorder quantity. I want to order another 5 of these. The other option that we have in here is that we could say, I want to always have, I want to always keep on hand 10 of these, in which case it's going to automatically autofill the reorder quantity for you and put it onto the purchase order as you need to fill stock on that high moving item. So you can take that out. There's also the box down here. Let's take that out. And then there's the box down here for the minimum order that says you must order 5. You can never go below 5. So if you do have the keep on hand is 10, then it's going to automatically order 5 because you can't order 3 at a time. So we have different, more of a variety of the boxes here. Also, for when you're reordering, there isn't an order from button on the purchase order. Instead, there is the button down here at the bottom. And if I was to take this supplier out, you'll see that it's who is the company that you're going to order from. And you can click on the company button and then type in the name. It'll search for it and put them in. Okay, so that's the difference between the products file and the purchase order screen. Also over on the left-hand side, we do have that green button again to post this item to a purchase order. And if I do click on that, it'll create, if I say new one, or if there was one that's open. And the other thing is, if I do click on the last order and there isn't one that's open, it will tell me that, so that I know that I need to go and click on new for the next time. And then it will create a new purchase order for me. It's now telling me this item is on order. You can see the order box is checked up here. And then when that order comes in, it's going to change the receive date. It's going to update the inventory and come full circle. And of course, if I put this item onto an invoice, then it's going to deduct the quantity on hand and move it over to the quantity sold and update the last sold date and move the previously sold date to the last sold date is going to move into that field. And of course, then it'll change my turnaround time as to how often this item is selling and how well it's doing in sales. So that is a basic understanding of the purchase orders. I'm going to go back to the main menu, and we're going to go back and click on the Create product order button. There isn't another screen that it goes to. It just simply says that any special orders that were created with the work order file and any retail products that were set to reorder are going to be added onto the purchase order, and that's where it finds those items. So I've got 3 of these on here right now, and I'm going to click continue. And now it's giving me the 3 art supply orders that I've added on here. And you can see there's the 2 for the Crystal Company. So of course I'm going to want to use the merge 2 POs to add them together, to put them in. And then anything else that's on here, it's got the products that I've added. And if something was added from a work order, this is a special order. So if I was to go back to the product screen and take a look at this, so let's go ahead and find that one in the product screen. You're going to see that it has a work order number attached to it. So this is the related work order it's on. It's going to have in this field, it says special order, because that's the button that was used on the work order screen. And if I go to the work order, there we go. There's the special order button. So when you click on that and you're ordering art specifically for a customer, it's going to be put onto your purchase order, and then it will give you the ability to order it directly. Do it the right way. Click new, none, because I want to go to special order. And when I click on special order, customer information needs to be entered in first, because it wants to know who this is for, because it's going to be putting their name on there. And I'm going to put my favorite person in there, Jim Taylor. And now when I click on special order, it's going to give me a variety of items to enter in. If the item has its own product number, you could put that number in there as well. Type in a description of what it is, who the artist is. You've got your drop-down list, so you can select who the artist is. It's a print. If you want to enter in the wholesale cost of the print, you can do that. And then put in your markup, and it'll calculate the retail price, or just type in the retail price, either or. If you want to enter in the width and the height on this screen, that's great, because then it will automatically autofill onto the work order as well. And I'm just going to enter in a few numbers in there. Over on the left-hand side, the company. Who's the company that you're going to order this from? So we're going to click on there, and if it's going to be ABC Art Supply, and that's who it's going to be ordered from now. So if they weren't in the list, then use the button to create that new vendor in the contacts file so that they can be added in here. And now when I click done, this is now going to be on the next purchase order that I have for retail products. Okay, and anything I add on here will go into the purchase orders for the framing materials. So I'm just going to click done on there and go back to the main menu, the find back ordered button, because that's pretty handy to just see all the back ordered items. And if you wanted to export them into an Excel spreadsheet, you can do that as well. So there are so many things within the purchase orders. We may need to have another one just to go into some of the detail areas of it, but at least this is an overview of it. It's easy to set up, it's easy to use, and it saves you a lot of time. And it can also save you a lot of money by using up the materials that you have before you start ordering more materials. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today for our webinar on the ins and outs of purchase orders. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all.